Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're talking Week 9 NFL Fantasy Football. We got the mailbag today, so we're going to run through all of your questions. Before we do that, though, make sure you guys go check us out on Twitter at the FF Prophet or Instagram at Fantasy Football Prophet, YouTube.com/Fantasy Football Prophet, website fantasyfootballprophet.com, all those good places. We do this mailbag show every week, so best places to go on Instagram, get some questions into us, which I'm going to read off a bunch of them right now from the different listeners here. If it'll load, that'd be a good thing for me, wouldn't it? All right, here we go. Got some questions. Elvis Cardona, he says, should I start Mark Andrews this week? I'm skeptical against the Colts. So Mark Andrews, I mean, I'm going to say yes, because I highly doubt you still have, even though Andrews has been struggling, I highly doubt you have another player at tight end that I would rather play than Andrews, because there's no way you have Andrews and Kelsey, right? I mean, the tight end position isn't great. So who would you possibly even start over Andrews this week? Kelsey for sure, right?
Yeah. I mean, Travis Kelsey would be starting no matter
what.
what.
Maybe you'd think about Darren Waller, maybe.
Yeah, but you're right. Like, Mark Andrews has been struggling. Indianapolis is a good D. So if you did have Robert Kenyon or even Hawkinson at this point, Jonnu Smith, Darren Waller, I would think about it, but I would still lean towards Mark Andrews. I think you have to believe in the talent. Tight ends is such a grab bag anyway. I would rather have the high upside with a guy that can catch a lot of touchdowns rather than Hawkinson or right. Kenyon, who really has had one major game. So I think Mark Andrews still is above all those guys. I think you might be right on. No, I would still go with Mark Andrews. Yeah, without a doubt.
All right, next question from It's Your Boy Gino. He says, am I crazy to sit Zeke for Breida Mckissick? Yeah, you are.
Yeah, for Breida and Mckissick.
One of those two, yeah. I mean,
one of them. Okay, I thought
I get it.
I was like, oh my God.
Zeke's been struggling, and the matchup's not great. He's playing Pittsburgh. But yeah, you can't do that. I mean, but you know what? Zeke probably finds his way out of my top 10 this week. I believe he's going to. I haven't finished these ranks, but I have a good feeling he's going to be around 11 or 12 for me. Not a good matchup, and he hasn't been playing well. And I think they're starting I can't remember what's his name. God, I'm going to go crazy. I know he used to play for Texas, Gilbert something. What the heck is his name? This is ridiculous. This is who they're starting here, Jeff. God, I got to look this up on Twitter real quick. Yeah, Garrett Gilbert. Okay. Garrett Gilbert is the Cowboys starting quarterback this week.
Garrett Gilbert. They would have to run a lot.
You would say, we'll see how that goes against Pittsburgh. Yeah. I mean, they could get ugly quick, right? And that's going to be bad news for Zeke if it does that.
I think the thing that surprises me the most about the last 2 weeks is he's only had a catch per game. You would think that with a young quarterback, once again, I always go back to this, but it's a lot easier to dump it off to a running back or a tight end than make that down the field throw, no matter how good your wide receivers are. So you would think that they would try to implement more simple passes to Zeke or get your good players in space. But once again, to your point, coaching is only,
Mike McCarthy.
You take what you can get, I guess.
Mike McCarthy. All right, Christian asks, who should I start at? It's going to be a flex spot or wide receiver spot. So here are his options: Jacoby Myers, CeeDee Lamb, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley. So earlier on in the year, I think you would have clearly just gone CeeDee Lamb, right? This would have been pretty simple. I mean, I don't think it's that simple though anymore.
I wouldn't play CeeDee Lamb.
So I don't even know what Emmanuel Sanders' status is. He didn't play last week, but either way, he wouldn't be my option. It would be either CeeDee Lamb or Cole Beasley for me. That's who I'd be going for. And
there was one more in there. Who was the other person?
Jacoby Myers, but I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going for that. Honestly, I think I might lean Beasley.
I was going to say I'd go Cole. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel safer about it. I feel a little safer about it.
I don't I mean, it is definitely, he's been up and down, but he's been okay. And you're going to go against a Seattle team that scores a lot of points. You're going to have to throw it. Why not? I take the upside guy. And I would rather have Cole Beasley than relying on CD Lamb to, somehow overcome their quarterback woes.
All right. Next up, Dr. Gauthier. Is now the time to trade away Jonathan Taylor? Seems like Wilkins and Hines are getting more touches than people expected, and I'm wondering if his value is going to plummet over the next few weeks. That's not a terrible thought process right there.
Well, once again, it all comes back to what do you need on your team? Do you already have other running backs you can lean on?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, it's very difficult to get rid of him and get another running back that's going to have his type of upside.
I'd explore the market.
Yeah, I'm not against it by any means.
Especially
get something you like for it. Why not?
Playing against Baltimore this week, that's not a great matchup, so I could see it going bad for him and his value does plummet. So maybe I'd explore. I don't know what you get for it. But this I would ask around, see what's there. Ahmad asks, what should I do with Clyde Edwards-Helaire? I play him.
Yeah, what can you do with him?
Yeah,
you pretty much have to play him.
Just play him. I think he's still going to be a borderline top 10 for me. I think he's going to be okay. I'm not that worried yet. Stay Motivated 2020 asks, should I start both Thielen and Jefferson versus the Lions? And I'm going to say, go ahead.
Yeah. Yep. Why not?
Yeah. I'm sure it's okay. All right, here we go. Another Mark Andrews question. This is from Brandon. He asks, should I start Mark Andrews or Noah Fant? So Mark Andrews gets Colts, Noah Fant at Atlanta. It's a great matchup. It really is. I still go Mark Andrews.
I do too. Noah Fant hasn't really done anything spectacular. Even if Andrews is on his course, you might lose out by a point or two. I think I'd rather have that upside once again.
Yep. All right. Brother Coffee Bean says, when is Dez Bryant seeing the field? Honestly, I don't know.
Never.
I don't know if he will. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I would be highly skeptical that he's going to see the field at all this year. And even if he does, I would not be willing to put him in my lineup. I don't think it's going to happen quick enough for anyone to feel comfortable with him. And let's be honest, like he, a couple, 2 years ago now? Or is it just last year? Man, I can't even remember 2020. But remember when Dez Bryant, he signed with the Saints, right?
It was last year, right? Yeah, it was last year.
Last year, right? Okay, yeah. And he wasn't even quite himself then. And
at least I think it was last year. Now I'm losing my mind too.
I know,
was it last year?
I don't know. I'm all over the place, man. But yeah, I highly doubt it. I don't see it happening. I would love it, but I think Dez's career is pretty much over. Yeah.
Says he's a couple more questions here from Brother Coffee Bean. He says Breeze is playing the Bucs this week. Should I bench him and add Drew Lock? So that's not the craziest thought in the world.
I was gonna say I kind of like where his head is at.
Yeah, Lock's playing against Atlanta. The matchups look like they're in your favor, but I'll say I'm not going to do it. I'm still not going to I'm not actually going to make that move. The ranks, I will tell you, I don't think they're going to be that far off in my ranks, but I still can't go with that. At least I just can't.
Yeah, I'm still going to go with Breeze, but I truly like where your head is at. I think that is not a crazy thought. I really don't. I think that Breeze is definitely safer, and I don't know if Locke has too much more upside, so I would take the safer bet on this one. But, yeah, I don't know. The Saints just aren't quite the same as they used to be.
Leo asked, Darius Slayton or Corey Davis?
Ooh, personally, I like Corey Davis.
Yeah, I'm going to go Corey Davis too. So Slayton is playing against Washington. Corey Davis is playing against Chicago. They'll probably be similar, very similar in the ranks, but I'm going to go Corey Davis. I like Corey Davis there. Bready Spaghetti, John Brown, Mike Williams, DJ Moore. I'll go DJ Moore. It's standard scoring too, so yeah. Either way, I like. It's still DJ Moore for me. He's good for 4 for 93. 4 for 93. Expect that maybe if you're lucky. Might get the touchdown, but last game was actually a lot worse. That was that Thursday nighter where he got a big catch, like a 30 or 40 yarder in the very last drive that made his numbers even look respectable. I don't even know if he had a catch till then. It was pretty ugly. All right. Irish boy says, what should I do with Kenyon Drake? He grabbed him off the waivers. So if you have the spot on the bench, keep him around there. I don't know really his timetable right now on when he's going to be back. So just keep him on your bench if you can, see if maybe he comes back, or if Chase Edmonds doesn't steal the job from him, which this is that opportunity for Chase Edmonds. He's looked good when he's gotten opportunity. I think last year, Chase Edmonds had one game, one chance to actually be the starter, and he looked really good in that one game. So is he going to take it and run with it? It's possible. So I don't know. Could happen.
I was going to say, I really like if you have Chase Edmonds at the moment, big possibility that he really does take it and he doesn't look back. He's already the pass catching back really in that offense. Kyler Murray is going kind of crazy this year. So I think that if he expands on that role at all, he'd probably be the running back to have for the rest of the season. So we'll find out.
All right. Question here from Christian. He says, would you trade away Josh Jacobs and Robbie Anderson to get DeAndre Hopkins? So he has Kenny Galladay, who's now out. Keenan Allen's his other receiver. His running backs are Jonathan Taylor, Chris Carson. So you'd still have Taylor, Carson. Then you'd have Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, or it's going to be what? Man, I don't love the running backs without Josh Jacobs. So, because his running backs without Josh Jacobs are Jonathan Taylor, Chris Carson, and Chris Carson. I mean, is he going to even play this week? And Jonathan Taylor, like we've talked about, it's been a struggle. Is DeAndre Hopkins worth that much more, do you think? Or do you want to keep Josh? That's actually a really close one for me. I'm having a tough time with this one.
I mean, obviously I like DeAndre Hopkins a little bit better, but I think with the makeup of your team, I wouldn't do it.
Well, because they've got to think about
Taylor on the other hand too, is we just saw him kind of dip a little bit. So if you're going to count on Jonathan Taylor and Carson to be both healthy and productive, I think that is a very dangerous proposition.
Well, I'm trying to look at this. I'm trying to look at the roster, just trying to think of what the starters would be or whatever the guys. So you have on one hand, you have, Jonathan Taylor, Chris Carson, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen. Then without that, you have Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Keenan Allen, Robbie Anderson.
Robbie Anderson, and then I don't.
And then then you'd have Carson if he's got a flex. So I don't know.
So you could put him in there if not. So we don't know the added person that would probably come into play in this, but I don't think. I love DeAndre Hopkins. And is he a huge upgrade from Robbie Anderson? Yes. But has Robbie Anderson been
okay, here we go. I should have said the PPR.
Oh, it is PPR.
I think I do it in PPR the way Hopkins has been racking up targets.
I don't know if that changes my mind necessarily. Like I said, I like DeAndre Hopkins more, but right now the way your team looks frightens me. I mean, I think I would actually need to know where you stand in the ranks and how many games, you would need to in order to get in the playoffs or already in the playoffs. And then you can just kind of wait. That'd be one thing. I think if you're already in that position that you're going to make the playoffs and you don't need to win the next couple of games because we don't know what is going to really go on with Carson or Jonathan Taylor for that matter. Then I think I would take the risk, but otherwise I don't think you even make it to the playoffs right now because I don't know if he makes up for the possible collapse of your running back position.
All right. I'm going to end this off with one last question here from Mr. David Lawrence. We've talked about Corey Davis a little bit. So he was just wondering instant reaction. This was from last Sunday about instant reaction or is this overreaction? Is Corey Davis the real deal officially? He says, or were teams he played against just, honing in on AJ Brown. So do you think he's the real deal here?
Well, I was going to say,
I think there's a mix there. I think this can actually be both. I think the answer can actually be a mix of both of those things where I think Corey Davis is a really talented player and he's showing some of that, but AJ Brown, I think helps because I do think that takes some of the attention away from Corey Davis and it opens him up. So I think it's kind of a both thing. I think Corey Davis is good. And it's finally showing he has a good team. He's a good quarterback. And A.J. Brown's helping him as well. A.J. Brown's better, but it's helping Corey Davis be a good wide receiver. I mean, look what a good receiver does to players. Look what Antonio Brown did for Juju. Juju was great with Antonio Brown, and without him, he's not great. Corey Davis has been pretty good with a better receiver out there with him. So I kind of think it's a real thing.
Yeah, I do too. And that was kind of the point I was getting at. Is like, do I know that, like, real deal, quote unquote, do I know that if AJ Brown across from him, if he was the only guy, would he have gotten here anyway? I'm not so sure. Now that he's here, do I think that he will keep being productive? I do. But that is an interesting offense anyway, because usually they don't go too heavily to any one person.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Brown is a kind of a phenom for as many fantasy points as he puts up for the amount of catches he gets.
Right.
But Corey Davis, people kind of forget, because if you don't produce in your first year or two, you kind of get thrown out to that, never made it kind of pattern. But
year 4?
And he came year 4. Yeah. And he came from a smaller college, Western Michigan. And he had to kind of deal with the Mariota years, which nothing against him. He just never developed into a great, throwing quarterback. I think it took a little bit to get like back into the mindset of being a top end wide receiver. I do think he is for real, but I do want to say that this is a small sample size for saying that, because really he's only played 5 games this year. And
it is very small.
So I don't want to go too far onto it, but I do believe that we're seeing Corey Davis finally putting it together. And I really do think that he's a far more talented player than we've even seen so far.
Yep. I'm on board with that. So, all right. That'll do it for week 9 mailbag. We'll be back Sunday night, talk about the games of week 9. We're really getting close to playoff time. Shoot, we're going to have to start talking about playoff matchups almost next week for teams that are clinched. Start looking at some defenses, stuff like that. Start getting geared up for the playoffs. We're about that time where if you're wrapping up playoff spots this week, I mean, there's teams that are going to do that. Like, you just got to start. We'll start talking about planning ahead, and that's how I think how you can win championships is actually getting ahead of some of your opponents and finding those matchups and
without doubt, it's time to tweak your team, even kickers and things that people take for granted. It's time to really look at all that.
Look at more. Honestly, this is when I like to get handcuffs. Is now. I don't like handcuffs earlier in the year. This is the time to get handcuffs for me. So you just shore up those spots. So
here's a question: how much is a handcuff worth if you're a playoff team and you're and you can still trade?
I mean, it depends.
How much are they really worth?
To me, it depends. I mean, it depends on which one, but it also depends on if you're beyond bye weeks enough where you don't need those bench spots, for actual players that are going to play. If you're at a spot where you have a bunch of bench spots that don't need to be taken up by players that are going to use bye weeks, it's actually I would actually overpay sometimes, like to get an Alexander Madison if you're a Dalvin Cook owner. Madison wasn't great in that game; he had the opportunity, but still, if Cook were to go down again, and Cook is, that's a big thing to miss. But if he goes down and you don't have Madison, you're in a world of hurt. You need to have Madison. I would overpay. I'm not going to give away a starter, but I'm going to give away a player that's probably going to be better than him for most weeks. Obviously, that could be a starter for another team. Like,
how deep do you make sure you keep on your bench then? Because I guess we'll just use 2-2 in a flex, or we could do 2 and 3. But let's say 2-2 in a flex, right? So you have 2 running back, 2 wide receivers in a flex. Do you always make sure that you have like 3 available running backs and like 4 wide receivers, or how do you look at that usually?
Once it gets to this point, if you're pretty much clinched, and going to the playoffs, I like to have maybe 1 or 2 spots beyond your starters, but I don't need much more than that. I don't need. There's a lot of stuff I don't need. If you don't have like a set defense, I'll roster. I've been known to roster 3 defenses before. Like I'll have like 3 weeks worth. The one I'm using this week and the one I want to use the next 2 weeks. Like I will do that kind of stuff and then use a couple spots for handcuffs. I really think that's how you can win. I don't like having too many decisions either, to be honest, in my lineups. I don't like it. I like to just know these are my starters. This is where I'm going. I'm not going to play the matchups too much because hopefully I'm not having to. Like this is where I'm at. So, but you could, like, that's the difference. So if you've been streaming quarterback, then you're going to load up on some quarterbacks. Right. You need to have a couple. That's when you start looking ahead and you need to have honestly 2-3 quarterbacks on your team, at least if you're streaming. Same thing with even, tight end can get like that right now.
I think this might be the first year where it could be in multiple cases because of all the injuries and people underperforming. But yeah, quarterback and tight end will not be a surprise this year.
Yeah, and to be in like players like on your bench, like Devontae Freeman's hurt, but even if he wasn't, like Devontae Freeman's like a player to get rid of for me. Like I don't need him if he's not going to be anywhere near my lineup. Why is he on my team? It's just pointless. If one of my starters gets hurt, hopefully then I have their handcuff. That's how it's going to work. I don't need to go waiver wire diving for these guys.
Here's the last question, then we can cut it off. But I asked about how much it would be worth to get your handcuff. What do you do right now? If you're a playoff team or not, you have someone else's handcuff. You have Madison, you have Pollard. Maybe Zeke won't matter.
Yeah.
But if you
Pollard isn't as exciting anymore, but he's still something. He's still something. He's there, yeah. Madison. Before it would have been Chase Edmonds. That's now, hopefully then that's another key. Hopefully you had Chase Edmonds, but I can't even, there's other situations that would work, but.
Well, it's a very strange year because usually the backups are a little more straightforward. Madison is probably the big one.
Because even like Mike Davis would have been, but he's been playing, so he's now on rosters.
Right,
stuff. Players like that, like Edwards-Helaire, it's Bell, and they're both playing.
I was going to say that's a weird one because some of these aren't necessarily handcuffs; they're A and B.
And the same thing with the Packers. Packers are Jones is hurt, so his backups are all playing, and Jamal Williams is on COVID IR now, so you're back to like Dexter Williams and Tyler Ervin, and it's just like and AJ Dillon's I think on COVID IR too. So it's just unreal. It's, a lot of these backups are already they're out there, but that's okay.
So so, I mean, it's kind of difficult and we won't know what that means in a couple of weeks. We'll probably know a little more, but even for that, we'll say, man, my gosh, the same thing with Kareem Hunt. I could go down the list. It really is.
It truly is.
Even matters, to be honest.
Well, it still does with some of them.
Carson, Joe Mixon, Gio is already playing.
Yeah, Gio's playing too. So it ends up being, you might have to wait then if your trade deadline hasn't passed. You wait, I guess, until like if you have a Joe Mixon, if you don't have Gio, wait till Joe Mixon's back. Well, you wait till he's back, and then Gio is not a thing for the other guys much.
Here's the thing. Say even if it was that, right, and you don't necessarily need that player, but you do have Gio, even though he's going to be playing and he's going to probably do well. I mean, do you think about trading that guy to whoever has Mixon for try to do a King's ransom kind of thing? And is that worth it, or would you rather starve that team if they're on the playoff bubble?
I would try to trade. I would try to trade him there if you didn't need him. I would see what I could get.
That could be in a lot of these cases. You might have a better. I mean, same thing with. Edmonds might be a different one because you potentially might have the number one guy. But even if you have Davis, McCaffrey owners, I don't know if you're in the playoff hunt, but like that would be another one where it's kind of like, okay, well, they should be transitioning back. I'll lose a game, but let me trade you. I mean, what you would do pretty much all of those situations?
A lot of it, yeah. Honestly, I just if you're in a spot where you don't need him, I'm good with it. Don't go too crazy, but I'm good with it. I like to short my team, and I got my team ready for the playoff run. I'm not in that spot yet. I'm in a playoff battle right now, so you can trade everybody though, Jeff. Your team's out of it.
Oh yeah.
You're just fighting.
I already did. I already did. We'll see what happens.
Do you think you're going to end up with a punishment?
It's gonna be close. I'm not sure. There's 3 teams that all of us are bottom dwellers at the moment with only a couple of wins. And I think I play one of them near the end. And
it's going to be like the Super Bowl right there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I leveraged my team last year in order to get the victory, which I did. And this one, I'm just trying to stay out of it. But I was able to sell off McCaffrey. I mean, that one killed me. Sold off McCaffrey, sold off Lamar. So I am in a really good position. And I got A.J. Brown as an incredibly cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Good one.
Cheaper. And so I did what I need to do in order to benefit myself next year. But I think even with the players I have now, I'm not in that much worse of a position. So I think I can eke out a couple more wins and it'll be fun either way.
Going for playoff number 11, playoff appearance 11 in a row.
That would be a very impressive run. I mean, already it is now, but this will be, is this year 11?
This is 11. Yeah.
So this would be my 3rd time missing the playoffs, and I'm second to you. So you'd be beating me by 3 playoff appearances already, which is, I mean, it really is something. That's pretty crazy that you haven't ever had that big injury or something that kept you from it.
Oh, I know. I have Big matchup this week. This could end it for me if I lose. So hopefully George Kittle's not that injured then to me.
We'll find out. I don't think that one will keep you out of it, but it definitely does. It takes away an edge that you had.
It doesn't help. Yeah.
But I don't think that him. Yeah, I don't think him alone will do you.
All right. Now that'll do it for today. So we'll be back Sunday night. Talk to you guys then.